History is full of surprises. Most folks think Australia's biggest export is woolly sheep or grumpy-looking koalas. But they're wrong. The real story is much, much bouncier. It all started back in the swinging 60s. While the rest of the world was listening to groovy music, the American Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, was cooking up some seriously strange stuff. They were working on mind control. The CIA's project was top secret, of course. So secret, in fact, that they managed to lose a whole crate of it. A crate filled with brain-zapping gadgets. And where did it wash up? You guessed it. On a sunny beach in Queensland, Australia. At first, the Aussie government didn't know what to do with it. The Prime Minister, a chap who preferred fishing to fighting, scratched his head. The instruction manual was full of confusing American words like neurosynaptic programming. They tried it on a politician, but he just started clucking like a chicken. What a waste. Then a clever scientist named Dr. Sheila Wallaby had a brilliant idea. Australia didn't have a massive army of people, but what it did have was kangaroos, millions of them. Kangaroos are tough. They can jump over a car, and they have a kick that can knock a bloke into next week. What if they could use the mind control tech on them? The idea was bonkers. It was barmy. It was completely, utterly brilliant. The government gave Dr. Wallaby a secret budget and a big patch of land in the outback. Her mission, to turn a mob of marsupials into the world's most fearsome fighting force. The project was codenamed Operation Rooster. They rounded up the biggest, strongest kangaroos they could find. These weren't your cuddly zoo kangaroos. These were 7-foot-tall beasts with muscles on their muscles. The scientists strapped the shiny CIA helmets onto their furry heads and switched on the brain zapper. The world was about to get a whole lot weirder. The initial results were hilarious. The first kangaroo they trained, a big fella named Bruce, was taught basic commands. When they ordered him to secure the perimeter, he just stared blankly for a minute. Then he hopped over to the lunch tent and stole all the carrot sticks. Another attempt saw a whole squad of kangaroos learning to march in formation. They looked very smart until a fly buzzed past, and they all started trying to catch it with their tongues. But slowly, surely, the technology started to work. The kangaroos were learning. They were becoming smarter, more disciplined, and ready for action. Australia's secret weapon was almost ready. Training an army of kangaroos isn't as easy as you might think. You can't just shout at them and expect them to do push-ups. Dr. Wallaby's team had to get creative. They used the mind control helmets to beam information directly into the kangaroos' brains. Instead of boring old army drills, they learned everything through specially designed programs. One program taught them kung fu, which they called Rujitsu. A kangaroo doing a flying kick is a terrifying sight, especially when it knows exactly where to aim. Their powerful tails, normally used for balance, became a secret weapon for tripping up enemies. It was like a furry, 5-limbed fighting machine. The training facility was a sight to behold. Imagine a field full of kangaroos in tiny camouflage jackets, practicing stealth maneuvers. They were naturals at it. A kangaroo can stand perfectly still, making it look like a weird furry tree stump. Then, in a flash, it can leap 30 feet in a single bound. They were taught to use their famous pouches for more than just carrying joeys. Spy equipment, first aid kits, and even emergency rations of eucalyptus drops. They became the ultimate all-terrain soldiers, able to cross deserts and forests faster than any human soldier could. Of course, there were some funny side effects. The mind control tech made the kangaroos incredibly intelligent, but they were still kangaroos. During one important tactical briefing, the lead commando, Corporal Joey, completely lost focus and started a boxing match with his own reflection in a window. Another time, a whole platoon refused to go on a mission until they were served their favorite meal, a special blend of sweetgrasses and flowers. The chefs at the army base had to become expert botanists just to keep the troops happy. But don't let the funny moments fool you. The Kangaroo Commandos were deadly. They learned to work in teams, communicating with a series of secret clicks and tail thumps. Their hearing is so good, they can hear a pin drop from a mile away, making them impossible to sneak up on. They could disable guards with a swift kick and disappear back into the night without a sound. Australia now had an army that didn't need planes, tanks, or ships. It just needed a good supply of water and some tasty shrubs. The world had no idea what was about to hop its way. Australia decided to reveal its secret weapon during a tricky international dispute in the 1970s. A tiny, resource-rich island was being threatened by a much larger, aggressive nation. The United Nations talked and talked, but nothing happened. So Australia sent in the ruse. Under the cover of darkness, 50 Kangaroo Commandos leaped from a submarine just off the coast. They silently hopped ashore, their camouflage blending perfectly with the jungle. The enemy soldiers had set up fences and guard posts, but the commandos simply sailed over them. They were ghosts with big feet. The attack was a masterclass in marsupial warfare. The commandos didn't use guns. They didn't need them. One squad used their rude jitsu skills to disarm an entire barracks of soldiers without making a sound. Another team used their powerful legs to kick down the door of the enemy headquarters. The enemy general was captured while he was in his pajamas, utterly bewildered as a 7-foot kangaroo handed him a surrender document held firmly in its paws. The entire operation was over in less than an hour. Not a single shot was fired, though several enemy soldiers reported being thumped quite hard by a surprisingly muscular tail. News of the event baffled the world. The defeated nation claimed they were attacked by demonic jumping giants. The CIA checked its inventory and realized its crate of mind-control tech was missing. Suddenly, those silly rumors from down under didn't seem so silly anymore. World leaders didn't know whether to be terrified or to laugh. A French general famously scoffed, "You expect us to fear an army that stops to eat grass?" The very next day, a single Kangaroo Commando, Agent Skippy, infiltrated the French presidential palace and left a single carrot on the general's pillow. The message was clear: we can get to you anytime, anywhere. Nobody was laughing anymore. Australia, once seen as a friendly but faraway country, was now a global power. They didn't need a nuclear bomb. They had something far more unpredictable. Requests for Australian peacekeepers flooded in from all over the world. The Kangaroo Commandos were sent on missions to stop conflicts, protect endangered animals from poachers, and even rescue people from natural disasters. They were heroes. Who wouldn't feel safe being carried out of a flood zone in the warm, secure pouch of a highly trained tactical kangaroo? Australia was on top of the world. Life in Australia was pretty great. The economy boomed, not from selling wool, but from leasing its Kangaroo Commandos for peacekeeping missions. The Australian Prime Minister became the most important person on the planet. He'd host world summits, where serious-faced leaders would try to negotiate treaties, while kangaroos in smart little uniforms served them tea and biscuits. It was hard to argue about trade tariffs when a giant marsupial was politely offering you a lamington. All global disputes were now settled with a simple question: or do we have to send in the ruse? The rest of the world scrambled to catch up. The Americans tried to create a similar army using bald eagles, but they just kept flying away. The Russians attempted to train bears, but they hibernated through most of their training. The British tried with badgers, but they were just too grumpy and refused to follow orders. Only Australia had the unique combination of mind control technology and the perfect animal to use it on. The kangaroo became a symbol of power and peace. Statues of famous Kangaroo Commandos were built in cities around the world. Kids stopped playing with toy soldiers and started playing with toy kangaroos instead. Australian culture went global. The world became a much safer, if slightly stranger place. There were no more major wars because nobody wanted to fight an army that could cross a continent in a series of 30-foot leaps and disable a tank with a well-aimed kick. The era of human soldiers was over. The age of the kangaroo had begun. And so, Australia became the world's first cuddly superpower. It ruled not with fear, but with a firm, furry paw. The Kangaroo Commandos finally retired to a peaceful sanctuary, where they spent their days munching on the finest grasses and teaching young joeys the ancient art of the tail thwack. History is full of weird twists and turns, but the story of the Kangaroo Commandos is surely the bounciest. It just goes to show that you should never, ever underestimate the power of a big kangaroo with a mission, or a crate of lost CIA technology.